With the trade deadline just passed, I wanted to take a look at each major trade in order of when they occurred and grade them based on how I feel each team did in this trade. I will warn you, a lot has happened, and this video will probably be put out in multiple parts, so let's not waste any time. Some may argue that the first real trade of the deadline was the Rafael Devers trade, but since that trade took place before the All-Star break, I don't want to count it. So the first real trade of the deadline is Josh Naylor being traded from the Diamondbacks to the Seattle Mariners. Naylor had an 807 OPS in Arizona with 11 bombs and has been more of a batting average hitter this year. Naylor will be a free agent after this year, so he has a cheaper price tag, and he could very well be the spark that gets Seattle into first place in the West. Going back to the Diamondbacks, they got two pitching prospects for Naylor: Brandon Garcia and Ashton Izzy. Garcia was the Mariners' number 13 prospect and is now the Diamondbacks' number 20, whereas Izzy was the Mariners' number 16 and is the Diamondbacks' number 50. If you're wondering how that works, I don't even know. But this return doesn't look that bad for the D-backs. Garcia spent his time in the minors this year as a lefty reliever because the Mariners have so much starting pitching depth already. The 25-year-old is more than likely going to get a chance to start for Arizona, as in 2024 he had a 2.83 ERA in 13 starts with 49 strikeouts. But if that doesn't work out, he should be a solid reliever. Izzy is 21 years old and is struggling in high A right now, and unfortunately looks more like a reliever-type pitcher just like Garcia does. With only 3 pitches and a 5.51 ERA in 12 starts with just 54 punchouts, the right-hander will need to deal with his control issues and develop another pitch if he wants to stick as a starter. So to sum it all up, the Mariners got a pretty good bat for the rest of the year in exchange for a 25-year-old unproven lefty reliever and a 21-year-old project who is in high A. That is a good trade for the Mariners and an okay trade for the Diamondbacks. The Mariners get a B+, and the Diamondbacks get a C. Gregory Soto is a left-handed reliever who was traded to the Orioles from the Phillies at last year's deadline. Soto has been somewhat better this year with a 3.96 ERA in 36 innings, striking out 44 batters for the Orioles. The Orioles got 2 pitchers in return: 26-year-old reliever Cameron Foster, who is in the Mets minor leagues and has never been a top 30 prospect, and one of my favorite prospects, Wellington Aracena. I will focus on Aracena here as he has the most upside. Aracena was my favorite lower-ranked prospect for the Mets, and he got traded when I was making the video. Aracena is now the Orioles' number 22 prospect and has some real upside with 4+ pitches. His biggest issue is his control. The 2.38 ERA in 64 A-ball innings with 84 strikeouts all look great, but the 35 walks don't. Unfortunately, the Orioles haven't been able to produce much homegrown pitching as of recently, so Wellington may not pan out. But he is definitely a really high upside guy that the Orioles could develop into a nice major league starter. So, a lefty rental reliever who is very good at dealing with left-handed batters for one minor league reliever who hasn't found success, and a 20-year-old project pitcher. I think the Mets were smart about this and should get a B grade, whereas the Orioles did a good job at getting as much upside as they could out of this trade and should also get a B grade. The Ryan McMahon trade, in my eyes, could only be done by the Yankees, and there are a few reasons for that. McMahon is in the 4th year of a 6-year, $70 million deal that he signed in 2022 with the Rockies. McMahon is a defense-first third baseman who is a league average hitter so far in 2025. So what team needs a defense-first third baseman and are also willing to pay the next $36 million of his backloaded contract? The Yankees. And oh, what's that? They're willing to give up 2 pitching prospects as well? Yeah, only the Yankees would be so willing to do that. I think Ryan McMahon is a great fit for the Yankees. They need defense and have good offense, while their third base position has been the worst in baseball. The return was 2 minor league pitchers who are both 22 and in high A ball. High A ball isn't exactly where you want to be when you're 22 years old. Griffin Herring is the higher ranked prospect in the deal, now the Rockies' number 5 prospect. The lefty pitcher is killing it in high A right now and will definitely be called up to Double A soon. Josh Grosh is a righty who is struggling in high A and is now the Rockies' number 19 prospect. To put it frankly, the Yankees addressed a need they had while adding to their payroll. So, not that great, but definitely made the team better. B grade for them. The Rockies got rid of some money and one of their only productive players, someone who has been with the organization since 2013 after being drafted by them. They got rid of one of their longest tenured players for two pitching prospects in high A ball. We know what happens to pitchers for the Rockies. This is a bad trade for them. D- grade, and that's being nice. Danny Jansen was traded from the Tampa Bay Rays to the Milwaukee Brewers, and then, not even an hour later, Nick Fortes was traded from the Marlins to the Rays. The Rays were looking for a better framing catcher when trading away Jansen, who is a second percentile framer, but an elite blocker. They traded Jansen for minor league infielder Jader Aronimo, who was the Brewers' number 24 prospect according to MLB Pipeline, and is now the Rays' number 26 prospect. I think both teams got what they wanted out of this trade. They got rid of a hit-first catcher when they wanted defense, and got a versatile 21-year-old in high A right now. The Brewers wanted to get more out of their backup catcher, and didn't give up a top 20 prospect for it, especially when their infield is full. B grade for both teams. Now the Nick Fortes trade is interesting. Fortes has 3 more years of cheap control after this one, and by all means is a defense-first catcher. He posted a .637 OPS for the Marlins in 59 games this year. However, he is in the 94th percentile in blocking and above 70th percentile in framing and pop time. The Marlins have 2 catchers in Liam Hicks and Agustin Ramirez, but what puzzles me is the return for Fortes. They got Matthew Etzel, a 23-year-old outfielder who is ranked number 28 by MLB Pipeline in the Rays system. He is now unranked in the Marlins system and is only in AA, with the only thing he really has going for him being his 65 grade run tool. The Marlins traded 3.5 years of a very good defensive catcher for a prospect not even on their top 30. I think that what the Rays got for such a little return is deserving of an A grade. And the Marlins trading a controllable, cheap backup catcher for someone who probably won't make the majors gives them a D grade. The Toronto Blue Jays traded their number 10 prospect, Jaron Watts Brown, for high leverage rental reliever Sir Anthony Dominguez. Dominguez had a 3.24 ERA and 54 strikeouts in 42 innings for the Orioles. He is very good at getting right-handed hitters out, however, he struggles with lefties. I like this trade, but I worry about it at the same time. On the surface, you gave up your number 10 prospect for a guy who will pitch for 2 months for you and then has a chance to leave in free agency. And for that fact, I will give the Jays a C+ for this trade. But to be perfectly honest, I don't like Brown as a prospect at all. He was pitching very well in high A to start the year with a lot of strikeouts, but that sort of came down in double A. That's to be expected. Strikeouts come down, walks come up, while the ERA stays within the mid-threes. But at 23 years old and in Double A, while letting a lot of players on base, I just don't believe he will be able to be a starter specifically in the majors. What's good on the Orioles' part, however, is the fact they got such a highly graded prospect for a rental pitcher, as they really needed pitching depth. Brown is now their number 9 prospect and could very well be with the club as early as next year if he figures something out. A grade for the Orioles. This is the first trade of the deadline that I absolutely hate. The Angels traded minor league left-hander Jake Eder and first baseman Sam Brown for relievers Luis Garcia and Andrew Chafin. Why do I hate this trade, you ask? Well, I really don't believe the Angels should make a playoff push. The Angels are extremely far from both the division lead and a wildcard spot, and the other teams in front of them got a lot better at the deadline. Whatever. They didn't give up much, and both these relievers have been good. Chafin had a 2.7 ERA in 20 innings for the Nats, but he has expressed incredible distaste for Los Angeles in the past, so I'm sure he's not so happy about that phone call. And Luis Garcia is 38 years old and only found success with the Nats this year. Jake Eder is unranked in the Nats top 30 and he is 26 years old and looks to be a lefty reliever at best, while Sam Brown is also unranked by MLB Pipeline. The Angels are getting an F grade, and if by some miracle they make it to the championship series with these moves, I will do the Ice Bucket Challenge and apologize to the Angels front office. The Nationals also get an F grade because they traded two solid rental relievers to the Angels, who didn't pay anything of value for them. Horrible trade. The Pirates traded their 28-year-old third baseman for rental reliever Taylor Rogers and the Reds' number 9 prospect, 20-year-old shortstop Sammy Staffura. To put it frankly, I don't like this trade. Hayes is in his fourth year of his 8-year, $70 million deal, meaning the Reds will be paying Hayes $7 million for the next 2 years and then $8 million for the next 2 years after that, as well as a club option for $12 million. Hayes is a defense-first third baseman, but unlike Ryan McMahon, he isn't a league average bat. With Pittsburgh in 2025, Ke'Bryan Hayes was 41% worse of a hitter than the league average hitter. He had a 569 OPS. The biggest problem for me is this contract goes until Hayes is 34 years old. There is no telling how healthy he will stay during that time, and injuries can hurt defense a lot. But naturally, a trade like this doesn't bring in a great return. The Pirates got lefty reliever Taylor Rogers, who is a rental this year, whom they also traded away later in this deadline. And then they got Sammy Staffura. He was ranked by MLB Pipeline as the Reds' number 9 prospect. He is 20 years old and an A-ball with an 804 OPS. Staffura grades better on the more athletic parts of the game, 65 run grade and 55 on both fielding grades. His bat is where he really needs to improve, and we all know how good the Pirates have been at developing bats. If the Reds can get anything offensively out of Ke'Bryan Hayes, I think they've won this trade. But it's still not that promising. D grade. And the Pirates got one prospect who is years away for a defensive player who is supposed to be one of their franchise players. F grade. Well, we just talked about Taylor Rogers, so here's Tyler. The righty submariner had a 1.8 ERA in 50 innings for the Giants. He was traded for the Mets' 10 and 12 prospects, Blade Tidwell and Drew Gilbert, along with reliever Jose Budo. It's crazy to me that such a hefty price needs to be paid for an elite rental reliever, but if that's the price that has to be paid, then so be it. Blade Tidwell is a 24-year-old pitcher who made his major league debut in 2025 for the Mets, posting a 9 ERA in 15 innings with 10 strikeouts. In AAA this year, Tidwell had a 4 ERA in 79 innings with 87 punchies. It seems like Tidwell is 1 or 2 adjustments away from being able to find his footing in the bigs. He's really not that far. Gilbert is now the Giants' number 13 prospect. He was a first-round pick by the Mets in 2022 and is a 24-year-old outfielder in AAA right now. He posted a 777 OPS in 82 games for the Mets AAA affiliate with 12 home runs. Gilbert also grades out as a great defender and decently quick runner, with his bat being where he needs to show improvement. Kind of like Sammy Staffura. Finally, Jose Budo. He has 5 more years of control after this one, and has a 3.64 ERA in 47 innings with 41 strikeouts. This is by far a fleece by the Giants, as they weren't going to contend in my opinion this year, and they got 2 prospects who are knocking on the door of the major leagues, while also getting an extremely controllable reliever for half a year of Tyler Rogers. So the Giants are getting an A+ for this one. But that doesn't mean the Mets did poorly. They're pretty good at developing pitching, and there's no saying what Tidwell would have become. Further, their outfield is pretty blocked up, so Gilbert really didn't have a chance of making the club. So I give them a B+. You got an elite bullpen arm for guys who were pretty expendable for you. Good job. I think that's where I'm going to wrap part 1 up. There will most likely be at least 2 more parts to this, as the trade deadline was absolute chaos. If you made it to this part of the video, I thank you very much and ask you to please consider subscribing. Also, tell me what your favorite trade of the deadline was from this video. Thank you. Have a good day.